Hello, people of the internet. Today, I will be turning the clock back to 2001 as I want to build a rival 2V 2001 Jaguar X Type 3.0, which is a pretty underrated car, I would say, because most people just see it as a Mondeo. Well, kind of like a Mondeo, and they don't want to buy a Jaguar that's a Mondeo. Now, I've started messing around with this car. I'm not sure I want it. But we need a body that I think looks nice to rival it. And we need a body that can be relatively light and sporty as well as packing all-wheel drive. Now, the reason I decided to rival this car is I thought that, if I could get a bit more power out of it, it could actually be quite a nice, fast vehicle. Can we flare the arches on this? No, it's one of those awkward ones. Oh no, we can. That's okay. It's just we might need wider tyres. But the X-Type 3 litre, it's kind of a sleeper really, because you don't expect it to have that amount of power. I mean, you see it and you think it's a diesel with a standard 2-litre diesel or something. You don't imagine it being just as powerful as it is. And this is my kind of windscreen. Yes. Look at all that visibility. I have to use that. I mean, I know it's not going to look good, but practicality can bring that back a little. I know that's not particularly practical, but, there's not really a disadvantage to it. It might take a little luggage space from there, but the reality of it is the passengers still have similar amount of headroom. We can bring that back as well. We don't need stupid amounts of overhang. But I don't know. This does look a little too large for me. Now, I think if we go for a slightly smaller wheelbase, well, that's too small. Like, you'll see that. I think that's a Ford Cortina. Yeah, that's too small. It's hard to find a body that does precisely what I want it to. It has to be kind of small, but not really small, if that makes sense. That one just looks too old to pass for a 2001 car. What have we got for the past 10 years? Let's see. That one is a little crazy. Nah, too crazy for a sensible executive market. But I do want chrome around the windows to remind our user of how they could have afforded so much something better. I don't know. So much something better. Is that now an expression? So what's the difference between these two? That one's larger. Okay, I think this is the kind of size we want. I'm not certain, but it does look like a relatively small kind of executive car. There was a BMW 1 Series body. I'm not sure that was around in 2001 though. That would have been specifically the right kind of size. It's just hard to find something that I feel suits the brand. We could use a hatchback, but we want it to be kind of more of a luxury car. We could use a pickup truck, but then who's going to buy it really? MPV, nah. I mean, we could build like a kind of MPV thing, but I would think the highest centre of gravity wouldn't make it wide as well. Now, what body can we use? I'm slightly befuddled by it. I do kind of like this one in its own weird way, but I don't see how it would pass for a kind of regular style of economy car. Can make it more of a hatchback, that's for sure. But I mean, even when we're not limiting ourselves to saloons, it's hard to find something that quite pleases me. What can we do with that? Not much. But I think maybe if we bring the front and the back more inwards on this, change the windscreen to suit my tastes a little more. Yeah, you're buying the car, but it's my tastes that matter. Yep, no one's going to buy this car, it's just, it doesn't look good enough. I don't like raking the windscreen more, but I feel it has to be done. Maybe we could go with more of a rear end extension on here. It will be good for weight balance. Then bring that back a little. Oh, we can bring the whole thing back, that's good. Maybe bring this door forwards a little, and there we go. It's got a lot of cabin space at the cost of really look. It's not a great looking car. Now I think we'll use +2 on the quality, and we'll go with the stiffest chassis we can realistically afford. Unless we go with a ladder frame, but we won't, that might cost more. Now the X Type was transverse, and I think we're going to go with a transverse as well, if only to get the all-wheel drive system in here in the same kind of way as the X Type. We could go with longitudinal, but I'm guessing that's more of a kind of complex thing that will eat up space. Now we also want a decent panel material. Aluminium is apparently limited production, but we could go for partial aluminium. I mean, this is more of an entry-level car to get people onto our heavier, more expensive cars. But also use more fuel. So, we have to make sure it's slightly disappointing, but not disappointing enough to put people off the rest of our range. So if we put those inwards a little. This car is going to age very quickly. But I do like these lights. Nah. I feel we could go with some kind of squarish lights. The Jaguar is kind of retro after all. Can have some of those lower down as well. We could chrome it out, but really, I don't think we'll do that on this model trim. This can be the more basic model, which is perhaps more of a sleeper, but you'll still get the good engine and driveline and stuff. Almost like a sport model, I guess you could say. Which, to be honest, is probably where this would sit in the model range. Now, if we see what we've got available to us, these ones might look quite good, actually. They have the same kind of look to the X Type, as in having quad headlights. Yet they're in a squarer enclosure. Yep, we didn't break into Jaguar's design studio and steal ideas. It's completely original, honest. We could have it like that. I think it looks more striking like that. Move it down a little, perhaps. I don't know. That's a sensible option. But we're not doing the sensible option, because we're crazy. Now, badges. We would go with a bonnet ornament, I think. It's just it's a cheaper car, so we'd want to save a bit of money. Nah, it won't be that much, will they? Just a nice little bespoke touch. Or we could have that on our premium models, yeah. Let's say that if you order a premium model, you get a bonnet ornament as one of the extras, but the cheaper models just have a badge on here. Seems like a decent enough idea to me. I might move this badge up here, actually, onto the bonnet, like the coveting BeamNG can have that. Since I just think it would look awkward blocking up a perfectly clean grille. Now, as for the grille, I think we need something like this. Again, we want to keep it as kind of a sleeper. Just something that will blend in with other cars. Something that's not really going to stand out. Yep, it looks a little odd on there, but I think it works overall. Just extend it outwards. There we go. Now if we can get the badge and move it down to here or something. It looks a little odd, but if I can get this to work, it is the right position. Just put it here. In the right position, hopefully. And it looks a little extended upwards, actually, so if we can press that down. There we go. That feels like about the right position for the badge. And we need some kind of lower grille. So, what do we have? We have this one. How would this work, I wonder? Quite nicely, actually, when I extend it. I know those lights look odd. I could probably change them, and I probably should, actually. They will line up with my grill so nicely. Right, so if we move this whole ordeal down, maybe it'll look better. What am I doing with it? It's kind of weird and slightly jumpy, it seems, when I'm moving it. I feel like it needs indicators down here as opposed to actual lights. The higher lights should work quite well for that. Thankfully, we do actually have some indicators though, which should work with our design. And best of all, we can make the grill smaller, so we're not having stupidly excessive amounts of cooling anymore. Well, it'll probably be stupidly excessive, just not quite as much as it was before. Just try and adjust this for size. And try and put it in the right position, hopefully. Come on. There we go. And it's quite nice there, I think. The kind of grill disappearing into the indicators. Looks a little odd, but nothing really offensive here. Now, we're not going with a sunroof. We want to keep it rigid and sporty, since it is a sport model. But again, that would be an option on the car, if you want that. Now, I'm a little weird, so I would option the sunroof, even if it's a sporty model, at complete expense of stiffness. But then I'm not really the kind of person who would buy sports models. And I really can't seem to find where door handles is. So annoying when that happens. As for the door handle, I don't know what I really want. Like, we have those. I want something kind of sleek. If we could move those the other way. No, the other way. Okay. This is going to be a little more difficult than I thought. There we go. And we can rotate them a little. There we go. I know they look kind of retro, but they flush with the body and I like that. I don't really want ones that stick out on this, it just doesn't feel right for some reason. And I've made a topsy-turvy upside down handle. I could actually move that the other way. No, I was just trying to think of lining it up with the curvature of the door, but that didn't quite work as I hoped it would. So there's our car. We could actually move this handle forwards a little, since it's very, very far back there. And you should have limousine-like legroom, actually. There's quite a bit of space in here for the class of vehicle. Now, what do we need on the rear? Some tail lights, that's what. Now, I feel like we should go with a spoiler with it being the sport model. But then that would actually add downforce, and we don't want to make loads of downforce on the rear and none on the front. It looks kind of like a Mazda now. Mazda 6, I think it is, from a few years ago. Looks kind of like that. Could we have a badge there? How would that look? Slightly awkward. Okay. I think I'm using these tail lights. I mean, they look okay. Again, inoffensive enough. Now we need some exhausts, so find the right ones. I don't think we'll go with quad exhausts. Just keep a decent dual exhaust setup here. I think now I've made a good looking car with a little generic in its own way. I mean, it looks late 90s, early 2000s anyway, so we're not too far off of a kind of era. Now, what else do we need? I think we need some number plates. And I can't seem to find anything today. Not my day for finding things, eh? Where was it? I just saw it. There we go. Just use a standard automation one, I think. Because that's all the rage in the early 2000s. It might be too big, you know. But hey, it fits. It beats some of my cars. I didn't even think of fitting the number plate here, but it has a place front and rear out. It'll fit pretty well, actually. I know it's not the most aesthetically pleasing of designs, but it works. I think we'll leave it at this. I mean, we've got a strong enough design. Could always add a bit of chrome here and there and stuff, if we wanted to build a more luxury version of it. And, oh right, that grille is red. I didn't notice because it was on a red car, but I think we can change it to body colour. Try that one. Yeah, that's body colour, there we go. It's actually blocked off. Oh, I've been a fool. I want it to actually be a grille, or at least look like a grille, because otherwise it won't work too well. I don't know. Just have a look through these. I don't know. How odd. I have to just leave it as being red, I guess. And this vehicle looks surprisingly good in yellow, better than I would have thought it would look. It's just that grille lets me down, and I can't seem to change it. Thankfully it is just a squarish grille, so I can easily find another one like it, but it is annoying. I thought I had it in the white colour and everything, and then it does that. Now here we have something interesting that should work. I think this pattern works for a lower grille. Try and extend it outwards. And there we go. Not actually too sure I like this pattern. It's too 1980s. We don't want to reminisce about the good days. We just want to help create bad days where we make more money. Nah, we just want to make a car. I think I'll keep it yellow. It makes it look a little happier. Now we want all-wheel drive. We're rivaling the 3 litre after all. Now, as for the engine, we're trying to take on a V6, so we could have a transversely mounted inline 6. Although that's crazy. Transverse engines are normally inline 4s. But then, clearly we have size restrictions here. So I could do something crazy. I probably wouldn't make the power without a turbo though. And you can't turbo inline 3s. Nah, that doesn't work. I don't want a V6 though. It means the cylinders are facing at the cabin, and that makes it really hard to get into and work on it. I could just use longitudinal, but that would be a cop-out. Anyway, there's no replacement for displacement. In this case, tiny low displacement engines. Yeah. These are probably more insurance loopholes than they are cars. I mean, using absolutely tiny engines and giving them loads of power. Yeah. I think we'll go with a 5-valve cylinder dual overhead cam inline 4, and it's too big. Okay. Still, with a good turbo, we should be able to get loads of power out of this thing anyway. So we'll go with all this stuff. Quality. Still a 1.5 engine. Actually, for insurance reasons, since it's only so big anyway, I'll make it a 1447cc, then it counts as a 1.4 instead of a 1.5. Also, it's not quite as packed into the car. You'll see it's not a large engine though. I've had more struggles, to be honest. We're on all the variable valve timings and stuff. So I feel I'm doing something wrong with the quality sliders. Just +5 on everything. We want to make sure we can mass produce this. It's going to be pricey. I'm probably including too much quality as it is. And we need a better turbocharger. Set up for race, which is generally a good preset for power. Direct injection. Regular fuel. And then change all this stuff. For now. Can only go with a short cast header, which is annoying when there's so much better available, but we'll have to do that because it's a turbo. Now we want it to be refined, so we'll do that. And look at our engine, it's not really making any power, is it? 31.3. Hey, it's better than some things I've built. Oh yes, turbocharger. I think I'm content with that. I'll probably come back and change it later though. Okay, there we go, direct injection. That's apparently the #1 problem of it. There we go, all the power. It's got a little lag though. I mean, it's not too bad. It's not too bad for economy either though, for such a powerful engine. It's not quite Impreza level, but so it doesn't need to be. And the radiator's apparently struggling. Try air to air, that doesn't seem to do much of use. I mean, I'll come back and adjust all this stuff, as I've said. I just want to get it working for now. Interesting, it seems to kind of fix itself specifically at the red line. Just let the valves float for a while until it actually gets red and stuff, because we need that RPM. Right, 64 for reliability. Has to be said, this is not a reliable engine. Leave it at this for now. What RPM is it on? 9300, okay. So here's our 4-cylinder monster of an engine. Not as much of a monster as things I've built before though. I think the most surprising thing about that engine actually is it has a sound. Normally when I build a 4-cylinder like that, it just has turbo sound or something. It actually made a growly sound though as well, which wasn't too bad. There you'll see it struggles to fit. But you can actually get the head off if you want to. It's easier than the V6 where you have 2 heads and everything. I can't call it the 2-headed monster though. That's sad. Now, go with this differential. It's pretty expensive, so we'll have to go with the cheaper end of differentials. But as long as it makes it sporty and works well at it, I guess that's good. We can go with 255s, wow. Or 225s all round. That's more realistic. I don't want to flare the arches or something, it's still kind of a sleeper. And we wanted to share its wheels with the front wheel drive versions. They're massive. Wow. That just starts to make it look a bit like a Weiser. They're nice. Could go with 19s. It is a sport model after all. But I think 18s look a little better on it. Or do they? 18s it is. Now we'll go with hard long life tyres and some lighter wheels, I think, for the purpose of ride quality and ride comfort. See, 207, but I think it's worth it really. There's far more expensive things out there than just spending that bit more on magnesium wheels. Especially since it's a sport model, the wheels themselves will be bigger than the lowly models, so we kind of need them. Now we can go with stupidly massive vented discs, as I always do. I over-engineer everything, I know. 2 pistons on the rear is probably too much even, but hey, my company's rich, so we can afford to do this stuff. I kind of like this actually as a powertrain. Very, very unsuspecting. Like Subarus have the scoops and things, but this is basically the same thing, only far more premium than a Subaru, and it doesn't show off about it. Now we can go with a fully clad undertray and cooling flaps, but active wings apparently haven't been invented yet. We want some brake cooling, and we'll lower that as well for the time being, but the engine is going to have some work, so leave that 301 for now, and +2 on that. We want 5 seats, I think. Probably going to be more of 4 + 1, but hey, people have families with this. You can't just expect them to, I don't know, put their children in the boot. Especially the boot in this, it has no window, it's not like a hatchback. Children aren't dogs, remember that. We need power steering and anti-lock brakes, and traction control, and electronic stability, I think. Because people can't drive, well, the people who buy my cars at least. And we'll go with advanced safety as well, since with Euro NCAP coming along quite recently before this model, it was becoming a bigger thing. To be honest, I believe it was the safety that actually destroyed car design, but it has made them a lot safer in the process. Okay, so we think we're going with air suspension, unless it's stupidly expensive, which it is. I'll come back to this. I'll sort all the transmission and suspension and stuff out after the engine. And boy is this heavy with its premium interior. 1709 kilograms, but we do have a decent amount of grunt. And the miles per gallon isn't actually too bad. I believe that's very similar to the Jaguar X Type. If only the weight was so close. The Jaguar X Type has 24 valves as well. More than my vehicle. Oh dear. We have more power as well. And the insurance group, well, who knows, really. This is not an S-Type R, though. That's for sure. It's cheaper than that model. I'm surprised by how much cooling it has, though. We haven't exactly put loads of vents on the front, have we? We've just got 2 decent-sized vents. Now, it takes 7.1 seconds to 60, which is not great. Also, the weight distribution is not actually bad at all. I would say I could do better, but remember, this is a smaller, cheaper vehicle. Now, what can we get in the way of downforce? I'm interested in this now. So if we look at the wing angle, ramp that way up, it doesn't really make a difference. I don't think it has any wings. I might actually have to put downforce on this, just because the way it is, it's getting quite powerful. But for now I'm going to adjust the engine and return when I've done it. Okay, so here we've got an engine that I think I'm happy with. We just have to adjust the style, which, as you'll see, we actually have different thingies here. I didn't think we could do that, but apparently we can. I like that one, but it's very, very retro, very 80s. We have to try and keep this thing modern. So what have we got that might work? I feel like this one could work. And then the colour. Can't really change. Oh, we can. Now I feel like we should use yellow because it's such a happy colour. Yep, I know it's a very unconventional thing to do. I mean, it looks like it's on a JCB digger or something, it's that yellow, but hey, that's what I feel works. So I'll go through what I've adjusted and then I'll show you the power. Now, compression, I've messed around with that. I've ended up at what's apparently normal. And here's the turbo settings I've used. Winning quite a decent amount of boost, but it could run more. If I increase that even 1 point though, the boost just goes crazy and then I lose power as a result of that. Same direct injection and everything. I might have to come back to that actually and cheapen it. And I've got ignition timing at 52, which was actually useful. It gave me both more power, less turbo lag, and a lower penultimate RPM, which is not really disadvantageous in any way I can think of. The exhaust, I messed with it on 5 to make sure it had plenty of breathing space, but then I smallened it to 4, which I think may have bought me 1 or 2 torques, but didn't do much. Mainly it's a cost saving thing. And the exhaust is all the same on here too. Now, if we look at the engine, we'll see service costs are apparently $1,313.97 a year. I love that detail though. Like, they don't charge 99, no, they charge you 97. The power, as you'll see, is 288 horsepower. I set myself a target of 280, but I was able to push it a little further than there. And the torque is 7400. Now, the target of this engine, though, was not to get crazy power out of it alone. I was already beating the X Type. Would have been no point in just building this for outright power. So instead I tried to build it for a balance of kind of power and turbo lag to make sure you could get the power at a reasonable level. I was aiming for 4500, but then I could get a few more horsepower by making it a little more laggy, so I just decided to settle for that. And you'll see, as long as you're over 4500 RPM, you actually have a decent power curve, a decent amount of space to make use of that turbo power. I know it's never going to beat a V6 for response, but then the V6 was 231 horsepower, so you'll see naturally I'm making all the power I could need from a tiny engine. Also, as I was just experimenting with, I can rev it to 8500. I could probably rev it to higher, but I don't know, 8400 even. It begins to get valve flow at 8500, and I get scared, okay? It's not a very reliable engine, only 66.3, but then what do you expect? It's a turbo engine from 2001 and it's a 1.4 litre. Hey, it still beats Fiat's attempt, let's be honest. I don't think Fiat's top 200 horsepower with their 1.4, and that's a much newer engine as well. Admittedly, you do pay for this, $1865, but I think for the performance you're getting, it's a reasonable price to pay. And in a way, this is actually no worse than a lot of Subaru engines. Remember, it's less powerful, but it's a lot smaller to get that power. And you're still getting it with half-decent economy. So I'm happy with this engine, I think. Not my finest hour, but I'm happy with it. And I mean, it revs to 8400 without anything going red, other than the turbo, so I'll just leave it at that, I think. Not the finest amount of time to make use of all the turbo power, but it works, you know. And hopefully it'll continue working and not just break, but then knowing this engine, it probably will fall apart quite easily. Now, it'll apparently do 158, but if I adjust the aerodynamics, it might not really change to a negative point. I mean, we're just turning all of this to 0. It doesn't seem to make much difference. Unless, I don't know, I had that on 0, that would have an impact, that's for sure. Just have a quick look, see if I've got any downforce. So, 37, minus 37 front, minus 38 rear. And then if I adjust this, it doesn't seem to make a difference. If I've got wings and things, it probably will make a difference, but in this case it doesn't. So we'll just reset everything to 0. Come on, stay there. It's controlling two things at once. Not sure how that's possible. But we're not using any limited production stuff, which is good, so we can mass produce this car. Now the cooling. Still don't need that much. I thought the cooling might have jumped up if it was on a turbo, but it didn't. Now let's be honest, I don't think we're going to need much more than 50 on the brakes. So we're just going to try and adjust this, hopefully. There we go. That should work quite well. We have a decent amount of brake cooling and a decent amount of engine cooling. I think for the level this car's competing at, I've done quite a good job. I mean, it's fast for its level and has a good manual transmission and all-wheel drive, so it should actually put the power down. Also, the miles per gallon is very impressive. This is a heavy car, mind, 1700 kilos last time I checked. So for it to have economy like that, pretty good actually, 24.8. I mean, remember, it's a high-performance engine. In 2001, you didn't generally get that many engines of this power. And only things like the M3 could beat it by about 50 horsepower, but remember that's a more premium kind of vehicle. This is just a sport, remember, it's not like an M car or anything, just a sporty car. If we want to make the high-end version, we can just basically give it more turbo boost and wider tyres and call it a day. Yeah, I don't like sport suspension. I could do that, but it's not my kind of thing. Now, the X Type does 0 to 60 in 6.6 seconds. My car, as you'll see if I ever find the thingy for that, does 0 to 60 in 8.1 seconds. But remember, it's not that far behind, and we do have a lot of turbo lag. Now, I don't want to have really long, late gears to the point you're out of the turbo zone, but I will tighten them a little. And that's really getting rid of economy, but it's making it quicker. But I don't want to lose economy. It's still an everyday car. So that's good. 25.1. But I think I'll... No, wait, it got quicker there. I think I'll settle for under 8 seconds. 0 to 60 and 25 miles per gallon. Seems like a fairly good balance. Slower than the X Type, but I'm pretty sure when this thing gets going it will be quicker. As a matter of fact, I mean, it is running a lot of power through these wheels, so it might just be worth going with some slightly sportier tyres. Like, let's see if we go with better tyres. There's absolutely no wheel spin on those tyres. Wow, it's apparently got no wheel spin at all. So I could probably afford to send a little power to the rear, which will help it round corners. It's fascinating though that it's not spinning up the wheels at all apparently. I'd guess that's to do with all the turbo lag. But even so, you'd think when a turbo eventually kicks in it would spin the wheels, but no, apparently there's nothing even on horrible basic tyres. Now what else have we got? We've got the widest tyres we can get symmetrically. We could have wider fronts, but I don't really see much point in doing that. It's got wide enough tyres to grip, I think. Still narrower than an old Impreza. I'm pretty sure the 22B had 235s from standard. And this doesn't. But hey, it's a tiny engine, which immediately makes everything okay. I've also just realised we're using less than half the displacement of the X Type. That didn't stick out at first, but now I've seen it. The price is actually very, very reasonable as well. Yes, it's 24,000, but you're getting a very good engine and a very good driveline for that money. Yeah, I think that's a good price to leave at, actually. $26,001. Yeah, we won't take a penny less. We won't take $1 less. You have to give us $1. It comes up as a kind of fun, premium commuter car, this one. And I should have just checked the weight again. As you'll see, it's not got any downforce. And the weight balance is 51.0% fun. Again, it's not perfect, but considering what it is, that is not bad at all. I mean, if we went with good old steel, we could have probably balanced it out better, but then that is always heavier, and we're adding weight to a very heavy car if we do that. 17-18 kilos. I mean, we're looking at about 150 kilograms heavier than the X Type, and that is not good. But it is overall premium, and I suspect this would have a more premium interior than the X Type. And I think, actually, we could probably afford better suspension. I believe this is best for comfort. Overall. No sway bars, though. You'd think we'd need some kind of sway bars. And I'm changing the dampers, not the actual suspension technology. Active suspension has no sway bars. But then at the same time, it's probably one of those suspensions that doesn't need it. I don't know. Off-road are most expensive. Interesting. Off-road aren't quite as good for anything, it seems, other than off-road. Fascinating. I think we'll go with air suspension, though. Saves us having that many complex electrics. We have to keep price down a little. But it's interesting. This is apparently more drivable and sporty with semi-active. It's just, we're throwing loads of power through. We want some kind of sway bars. We don't want it to wobble all over the place. Average reliability is 69.1, which is probably not great, but probably not terrible either. Now, the miles per gallon, which I'm very proud of. I need to find the thing on here to compare against. So as we'll see, the Jaguar supposedly does 27 miles per gallon. Now looking at our car, we do 25.1 miles per gallon. Yes, it's lower than the Jaguar, but I still think this is a very competitive car because it's slightly more powerful, remember. It's rare you get a more powerful car with better miles per gallon than a less economical one. So it's entirely reasonable that we have 2 miles per gallon less, I think, compared to the Jaguar. Anyway, it's time to actually adjust the suspension for comfort. Remember, it's still an everyday car. And take it round the Nürburgring. So let's go. Okay, so we've set a 9:08 time round the Nürburgring. Yes, it's a slow vehicle, but I still think it has a very good powertrain, and moreover I think it delivers on being a sleeper, because it has beaten a Volkswagen Lupo GTI and a Ford Focus RS, and just about beaten a Chevrolet Cobalt SS Turbo. So I know it's not against the very highest performance cars in the world, it's against kind of sporty early 2000s cars, but the thing to remember is this is not a sports car, it's just a saloon with bigger brakes, all-wheel drive and a better engine essentially, and for that I'm quite happy with it. I mean, you'll see here, just power sent to the back, but the best part of all is it just looks like a 1.4 turbo if you're filling in the insurance or whatever, and especially if you add 1.4T on the back, everyone would just assume it's like a lowly Vauxhall Astra or something. No one would realise the performance potential you would have in this. No one would realise it can beat a Ford Focus RS around Nürburgring. Now, as you'll see, we've got quite decent gear ratios, no doubt that will have helped us, and we could have probably used positive downforce, but I wanted it to stay quiet, I wanted it to stay refined. Also, as you'll see from setting the engine to a lower quality, the price is also pretty reasonable. Somehow the price has gone down a little, not too sure how that happened, but hey, we can't use it to increase our profit margins, and it goes over 2600. I don't want that. 26,000 rather, is probably a more accurate term. You see, it's just generally like a fun kind of sporty commuter car, which is exactly what it's supposed to be. Comes up as a budget sport here, even. Again, it's actually got my car right for once. And it seems reasonably competitive. I mean, that's what happens when you don't feel tempted to put a race engine in everything. This isn't a race engine. In fact, it would probably blow up when you try and pull any extra power out of it. But it's got decent enough response without lag for you to enjoy it. And then you can always drop it to 4,000 RPM and save a bit of fuel if you want to, which is always useful. And also, we have a head that you'll be able to remove. It's not a two-headed monster, it's just simple and it's easy to modify. It's just a four-cylinder with a massive turbo, which is really what you might want from an engine. If you're just buying a car like this, you probably don't want the most expensive, most complicated vehicle in the world. And I'm happy, you know. Maybe it's not my finest hour, but I've achieved a vehicle that's, well, nice overall. It's not going to be the best at anything. It's not the best looking, it's not the quickest. Hey, it's not even the most comfortable. But then, nor should it need to be. For its class, it's quite a competitive vehicle. And I have no doubt I could pull some extra time through it if I didn't have very, very basic tyres on it. But I wanted to make sure it handled on basic tyres, because that's what the majority of my users is going to put it on. And there's our vehicle. And again, I've been a very silly dashboard and forgotten to name my vehicle. Now, we can name it after a cat. Just because, you know, it's classy. And I'm going to call it DSX because the lap time it's set around Nürburgring lines up with those numbers on my BlackBerry. And it just uses alt because it doesn't have a separate number pad and all that. We also have to name the trim model, which is easy. 1.4T Sport. Very unsuspecting. Like, you know it's kind of sporty, but you would never suspect it's got 280 horsepower and all-wheel drive. So that was quite the easy part. Now, the engine family. I think we can call this 1.4 Super Turbo. Also, I was looking back and I've actually managed to improve turbo lag on the engine while increasing the power as well, and not really affecting the economy, which is, I guess, a miracle in car world. And that's just the engine variant, so we can call this the untuned, because I'm pretty sure you could tune it a bit more and get more power out of it if you increase the quality and stuff, but we don't need that level of power, so there's not really a point. Anyway, I leave you with this vehicle and all its overweight bodywork to say goodbye until another day.